what are you thinking about now? What excites you past Bitcoin that you are putting money to work? I know it's more looking at profitable businesses, past tokens, but what specific themes?
So before I answer that question, in 2018, I think end of Q1, I went to a conference in San Francisco on a battleship. It's a wild thing to say, but went on this conference, sat on stage, and a fireside chat, and a guy asked me about ICOs.
Yep.
And I probably wasn't as self-aware as I should have been that I was in a room full of entrepreneurs that all ICO'd.
Yep.
But I basically was honest, and I said, I think that most of these people are breaking the law. They don't even realize it. It's going to end really badly, blah, 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 whatever. I literally got booed like while I was on stage. I got off the stage, and the next panel, before I could walk out of the room, somebody basically said something to the effect of, that guy's an idiot. He doesn't know what he's talking about. Like, ICOs aren't breaking the law, blah, blah, whatever. So I remember this as when you think about like what's going to happen, there's like what the market believes, and then there's like what you believe, and you just got to be really comfortable believing what you believe, and even if it's non-consensus, like hopefully you're right? And I say that because I think there's things that I'm looking at that other people have either written off or they don't think are going to be super valuable, which tells me that we're probably onto something. So every stock, bond, currency, commodity is going to be digitized. I think that the problem was most of the OGs had heard that for so long that they'd like given up on it. It's like, oh, like there's no point to tokenized securities. As many people know, we've now made 4 investments in a company. It's now $1 billion business figure. They figured it out, right? They're digitizing debt very effectively and being super disruptive to a market. So I think that'll continue into stocks, currencies, commodities, etc. I think another thing is this idea that humans are going to continue to trust algorithms and software over other humans. So that plays out less about like DeFi as it's known today. I actually think that the DeFi versus Bitcoin space is a mismatch right now. So if you think about Bitcoin as money, but all of the infrastructure around it's centralized, but in the Ether world, Ether is probably not money, but all of the infrastructure is decentralized. Well, there's going to be a melding of those two worlds where Bitcoin is money and decentralized infrastructure is going to come together. I actually think, unfortunately, that the Ether community is going to have a rude awakening in that the DeFi space is going to end up being built, but it's going to be built over on the Bitcoin side, which I think is scary to some people because they're going to be blindsided by that. Another thing is with stable coins and digital dollars, I think that legacy banks are going to create massive financial incentives to elicit people to adopt the digital dollars. In that world, you can see them saying, we'll pay you higher rates of interest on an interest-bearing account if you keep your cash in a digital dollar versus a traditional dollar.
Sure.
We'll give you higher rewards if you take your credit card rewards in digital dollars. We will drastically reduce the cross-border transaction fees or wire fees if you transact in digital dollars rather than wires or anything else. And then I think we're getting probably 18 months to 24 months away. There's going to be a showdown between the Wall Street banks and regulators. And I think regulators are going to wake up and realize, wait a minute, they're not building stable coins, they're building central banks. And that's going to get really, really messy.
But how will their approach be anything different to what they said to Libra, or will it, right? It'll pretty much be, look, calling it out, saying you are building your own currency, just stop. Are they going to play the same playbook?
You can't, as one country, outlaw something that is multinational in nature,
sure.
Right? So Libra has geographic diversity, it has industry diversity, it even has public and private sector diversity. So the U.S. can say, no, you can't do this, but Facebook is just one company in an association. So even if Facebook backs out, Libra can continue on,
yep.
Right? If all U.S. companies back out, Libra can continue on. So the decentralization of that is part of the security of it being able to persist. But if regulators say to J.P. Morgan, if you unpeg your digital dollar from the real dollar, it's illegal, right? You're going to jail type thing. they back out, there's no one left, right? So it's their fully centralized control of that corporate central bank, which I think a lot of people say, oh, JP Morgan's getting the game. This is going to be good for stable coins. But again, all they're going to do is they're just going to unpeg their digital dollars or their stable coin from that dollar peg behind it. And when they do that, now they're just a central bank. They can print as much of their JPM coin as they want, and they don't have to check with anybody else. There's no oversight. There's no rules. There's no anything.
What demand is there though for an unpegged JP Morgan coin? Like
you're not going to adopt an unpegged one. You're going to adopt the pegged one.
Yeah, but that works for a quarter. So you adopt the pegged one. What happens when they unpeg? I mean,
it's the same thing that happened to the dollar. So here's what they do is, so they're going to create JPM coin. They move their own cash around the world. Super inexpensive, very fast, etc. It's great. Then they go to their corporate partners and say, hey, it's cheaper. I'm going to save you credit card fees. I'm going to save you all this money. Use the JPM coin.
Sure.
Corporate partners say great. Vendors say great. Then they go to retail and same thing. They say, hey, I'm going to incentivize you to adopt our digital token. So I'll give you higher rates of interest on the deposit accounts. I'll give you better rewards on the credit card. I'll give you lower rates on mortgages, yada, yada, whatever. If you take your salary in digital tokens, this digital dollar rate will do whatever. Only once it has full adoption, then they unpeg it.
Yep.
People are dumb, man. They're already using it. They adopted it.
Bait and switch.
Yeah, it's what the U.S. did. Why would they not do it? They're financially incentivized to do it.
Well, I think they will try it. I just don't know. I think it leads to an end game. I think they're also smarter than to try the bait and switch that quick, right?
Oh, it's not going to. It's not going to.
The U.S. did that over how many years?
Yeah. So to be clear, I think that over the next 18 to 24 months, they'll do the financial incentives to elicit adoption. The unpegging, that doesn't happen.
That's
in 2
long term.
Yeah. But I think that it's important to get regulations in place today that say you are not allowed to do this. So like my whole thing, I've been saying for a while now, is there should be regulation that if you launch a stable coin as pegged to any commodity or currency, it's illegal to unpeg it in the future.
Sure.
So if you want to launch a different one, knock yourself out. You can peg it to whatever you want. But if you come out with a promise that something's pegged to a currency or commodity, you can't change that in the future once there's adoption.
So basically, you have to be an honorable central bank if you're going to be one.
Yeah. Well, you're not a central bank then, right? If it's pegged to the U.S. dollar, then
you're still creating your own currency.
No, because it's backed 1-to-1. So the Fed's still the central bank. It still sets the monetary policy. All you're doing is creating a layer on top.
Synthetic way. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like creating like a credit layer on top, right?
Yeah.
Essentially.
Yeah.
The problem is if it's unpegged, then literally Jamie Dimon can be like, print more. Like no fucking way does anybody want to live in that world.
Yeah.
Because then, by the way, down the street at Wells Fargo, they're doing the same thing. Down the street, HSBC is doing the same thing.
Jamie
right?
Dimon wants to live in that world.
Of course, they all do. They all want to. How long have they tried to control or influence the central bank? But now they don't have to control or influence the quote unquote independent central bank. They can just be one themselves. Fucking crazy world.